I got asked an interesting question about Star Trek. As such, wait, what happened to the graphics? Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Trek Canon Bootleg Edition. So today, I'm going to answer a question that I thought was pretty interesting, and that question is, or do Romulans have the same strength as a Vulcan? So I figure I'll talk a little bit about the relationship between Vulcans, Romulans, and by extension, the Remans. So let me get prepared real quick, because you guys know my phonetics is not right without my glasses. All right, so here's the thing. Many thousands and thousands of years ago, right, the Vulcan planet, the Vulcan society, they were very just chaotic, primitive, right? And when I say primitive, they were warring, they had factions, they were executing each other, man. It's just, they barbaric. They were very violent, like extremely violent. Anyway, this one Vulcan came along and was like, hey, there's got to be a better way, because we're going to end up destroying not only ourselves, but Vulcan itself. Like, we got to do something about this. Now, around that same time, you had a whole lot of Vulcans that was like, look, y'all on this planet just tripping. We out. We finna go somewhere else because y'all tripping. Y'all tripping. All right. They settled on a planet called Romulus. Okay. They took up their own society and they said, hey, you know what? We're not gonna deal with none of that because they crazy. They crazy. Now, again, right around that same time, you had this one Vulcan dude that was like, hey, listen, we got to do something better, because we can't continue like this, or we're going to go extinct. We just got to do something different. We got to learn how to tame our emotions, our violent tendencies. We got to learn how to get this stuff under control, right? So he decided, he said, hey, you know what? I'm going to institute this religion, this way of thinking, this way of meditating and everything like that, that is going to give us the ability to control our emotions. And it's going to be based around the theology and the religion of logic. Okay. So fast forward many thousands of years, right? And you got some differences that has developed between the Romulans and the Vulcans, not to mention, which was later portrayed in Star Trek The Next Generation and on, but in the original series, Vulcans and Romulans looked identical. It was no face prosthetics, I mean no head prosthetics, none of that. They looked identical. And for real though, look at this image and tell me that if Amanda wasn't right there, you wouldn't think that this is the Romulan from Balance of Terror. Yeah. So, by the time the Next Generation and everything came along, they had very distinguishing differences. So, let's talk about their strength. Now, a lot of people seem to think that Vulcans are a lot stronger than Romulans. No, they're comparable to each other in not only strength, but intelligence as well. It's just that Romulans don't utilize logic the way Vulcans do. Vulcans utilize more treachery, okay? Vulcans also have a few distinct differences in their brains that has stayed the same over their entire history of being Vulcans. And that is one, uh, their ability to use telepathy, okay, which some Romulans do still have. Just to let you guys know, some Romulans do still have telepathic abilities. Just to prove it, there was an offshoot of people from Romulus, because here's the thing. Sorry about that, people. You got a group of individuals that's in the kitchen deciding that, hey, we are planning for Thanksgiving. It's a black household. All right, so anyway, you had a group of Romulans that broke off called the Remans, and we know for a fact that the Remans have telepathic ability. You guys remember that whole Raymond and Deanna Troy thing? Yeah, let's set that aside. But here's the thing. Why don't all Romulans, like all Vulcans, have telepathic abilities? First of all Vulcans do not have telepathic abilities. There are Vulcans that don't have that. Now, just like with any muscle you don't use often, it can atrophy, right? Meaning that because the Romulans kind of withdrew from that society and kind of said, hey man, we don't want to deal with nothing with y'all culture, none of that logic, none of that stuff that y'all doing, right? Including the telepathy, that ability started to kind of become recessive, I should say. It didn't go away, it became recessive, meaning that with training, yes, a Romulan and regain their ability to use telepathy. Isn't that awesome? Right? Okay. What am I missing? So I covered intelligence. I've covered emotions, right? And I've covered kind of strength. And I've covered just kind of basically some of the differences. Now, there are some people who believe in beta canon, however, though, that these differences came along through augmentation, that sometime in the Vulcan history, that there was experimentation that happened on the Vulcans themselves after the offshoot of Vulcans left, becoming Romulans, which enabled them to have all of these mind abilities and all that kind of stuff and la la la. No, think of it this way: just like with humans, all right, all humans originated in Africa, basically had the same, right, features, all that kind of stuff, and as they went different places and the environment and all that kind of stuff, it basically changed them. Meaning, though, that they all still basically the same species. All right. Now, it's the same thing with Romulans and Vulcans. And yes, Romulans and Vulcans can have children. Ain't that right, Simon Tarses? And I guess we could get into the Remans. All right, so here's the thing about the Remans. See, because there was some Romulans that was basically like, yo, listen, I think I want to reattach with my Vulcan heritage and everything. I still want to practice some of the things that Vulcans practice. I still want to use some of my telepathic abilities. These types of people were basically rounded up by the Romulan government because, again, the Romulans was like, we don't want to have nothing to do with that. And these people were exiled. Okay. And over a long, long time, a few thousand years, right, they developed into the Reman civilization, the Reman culture. So you kind of see why the Remans have this issue with the Romulans, because we came out here with you guys, man, and we just want to, man, look, it's some things that we want to, do, man, some things we want to practice, man. This is kind of our heritage. We want to do everything. We want to do some of the things. We don't want to do everything. We want to still use our telepathy and everything like that. And y'all just gonna kick us out over here and get it. Nah, man, that's kind of bogus. So that's the relationship between the Romulans, the Remans, and the Vulcans. Oh yeah, just so you guys know, you guys remember in that same movie, right? I think it was Nemesis. I mean, what was it? The remake of Star Trek, right? Where Captain Kirk was on that future mining vessel and they was fighting the Romulans, right? And Kirk fell off, it was hanging off, and that Romulan just picked him up with one arm and was holding him there enough for Kirk to say a whole sentence, for him to be like, what? And then for him to take the Romulans, disruptor. Right. Yeah. He was doing that one arm. Why? Because they just as strong as a Vulcan. Anyway, thank you guys for watching. Please subscribe to the channel if you haven't. And as always, peace, recycle, and say the whales. You guys be cool.